Intergenerational trauma. I'm sure you have questions like, what is that and why does it happen? But before we can tackle that topic, first we need to better understand this. This is deoxyribonucleic acid, otherwise known as DNA, and this is what makes you you. This brilliant molecule is composed of two phosphate sugar spines and nitrogenous bases, the combinations of which determine what genes you have and what traits you can express. And its ability to fold up super teeny tiny like this is thanks to its double helix structure. Two spines. The double helix was first photographed by Rosalind Franklin, and her work was then stolen by Watson and Crick, who took all the credit. Actually, slight correction, it was a man named Wilkins who stole the photograph, and then he gave it to Watson and Crick, and then they stole her research altogether. It was a three-man operation of disrespecting women. Luckily, she's since been awarded the credit posthumously. But enough about that. On to the question we proposed at the beginning of this video. What is intergenerational trauma? There is something called epigenetics, and that's basically the things that can affect your genetics. So depending on the environment that you live in, the social experiences you have, or the chemicals you're exposed to, that can actually change the way your DNA is expressed by either ramping up the production of proteins, which is what your DNA produces, and then that makes you you, or minimizing the production of certain proteins. These changes can either be healthy or unhealthy accordingly. Epigenetic changes can survive cell division, which means if one cell has its DNA altered, as it divides, that can cause changes in other cells as well. And they can be passed on in gametes, which means they can wind up in your sperm and eggs, which is how they can have that intergenerational effect. Shout out to my students for making these wonderful models. In one particularly fascinating study of epigenetics, rats were tested, and it was found that those rats who were less attentive to their offspring had offspring that developed less of an ability to cope with anxiety and stress, and that was something they passed on to their offspring, which is why a traumatic event that's suffered by your grandparents, for example, can affect your parents and then you by physically altering the way your DNA is expressed. Now, if you're somebody who's experienced intergenerational trauma, don't panic, because there are ways to mend this. The first step is knowing that something happened, and then the second step is living as healthy and happy a lifestyle as you possibly can, because you can make positive epigenetic changes going forward with your life. If there's a science topic you'd like to know more about, then comment below or reach out to us on social media. In the description of this video is some additional reading material, because it's very important that you always do your own research and come to evidence-backed conclusions. Stay safe, be kind to each other, and remember, there's no room for shame when growing your brain.